Hello everybody, Becca here. Today I am going to do something so fun, I can't wait to get started. I'm going to make elderberry wine. So let's get started. So like I mentioned, I'm going to make elderberry wine. Most of the time when I make a wine, I make it at a gallon at a time, but this time I'm making 5 gallons. Ooh. So I'm going to give you the ingredients that I'm going to use for my elderberry wine, and then we'll start the process. So my elderberry wine, I make really close to my elderberry syrup. As far as the ingredients goes, you know, why mess with something that actually tastes good? So with the ingredients today, I'm going to give you the ingredients list as a gallon, and then we'll talk about how to upgrade that to 5 gallons. So what you'll need is 2 pounds of fresh elderberry per gallon. You also need a lemon. You'll need some ginger. You'll need cinnamon. This recipe calls for a 2-inch cinnamon stick, but this is a 6-inch. But doing 5 gallons, we're looking at 10 inches. So I've got 12 inches. It's going to be nice and cinnamon-y. Also, I'm going to add clove because I add clove to my elderberry syrup and I like how it tastes. So I'm just going to add it to this recipe. And then I'm going to add some raisins. And you do that kind of for the sugar content and slight taste content, if that makes sense. And then sugar. For this recipe, the raisins, you would use a cup of raisin per gallon, and then the sugar, you're going to be using 3 pounds of sugar. So the first thing, and then you also need your yeast. Which, yeah, in the past I've actually done wines where I'm collecting the yeast out of the air, but since I'm doing this in such big bulk, I definitely don't want to lose 5 gallons of wine, so I am going to use the yeast, packaged yeast. And a gallon of this, and you would use, you could use about a quarter a package. Most recipes you'll find online, they'll say to use a whole package for a gallon. I find that is way too much yeast, so I usually divide it up into 4 when I'm making a gallon, and it seems to work out fine. And in a 5-gallon recipe, you'll find that they use a package. So you can take it or leave it, whatever, but that has been what has been successful for me, so that's what I'm going to do. But the yeast you will set aside for later. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to gather the water, hence the pot back here. I'm going to heat up some water because we need to dissolve all the sugar, and then also have nice hot water to get our ingredients in and going. Oh, and almost forgot, a nice little tea towel. So if you put all your ingredients inside of a tea towel, it will be much easier to strain. So that's what I will be doing. So I will move the camera and get the water going, and we'll come back as the water is heating up. So bagging my elderberry is rather easy. It doesn't have to be all that hard. It is just a tea towel, and I am just going to pour my elderberry into the towel. Now, if you don't want your clothing stained, you definitely need to watch out and make sure that you keep it off your clothing. And the same thing for your hands. If you don't want your hands stained, then I might recommend that you use some rubber gloves or something. There we go. It's just that easy. You pull up all the ends and then make sure that you have enough fabric that you can pull the sides up to, because you don't want to go through all of this and just for it to start escaping out of the sides. And the reason I'm doing this is because it contains all those little bitty berries. It makes it a lot easier to clean up. And it also makes it a lot easier to smash this, because you want to smash it. And you might have noticed that I didn't put the other ingredients in because they are larger ingredients. They don't need to be smashed. So I didn't put them in. But however you want to do it, this is your creation, so you can do it whatever way that you want to. That's the beauty of doing things at home. So now you can see the berries are already soaking into the fabric. Oh, this is going to be so gorgeous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to smash this up a bit, but I'm not going to do it with my hands. Because it will stain hands, and I've had stained hands for up to a week before. So I'm going to try to minimize that. I'm going to put this in the bucket, move the camera, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So now you can see I have my bucket, and then I have my bag in the bottom of the bucket. Well, I have this wonderful little pounding stick from a fruit strainer. So that's what I'm going to use to break up this elderberry. Alright, so as you can see, it's looking wonderful. Look at that awesome color. Okay, once you think you got it smashed up good enough, then we can start adding the other ingredients. There's the cinnamon, there's my raisins. I like to smash up the lemons as well. Not that it's really necessary, but there we go. It's more of gratification. Just easy as that. All right, so I'm over at the stove, and basically I'm heating up the water just to dissolve the sugar, but it is also good to start assimilating all of the nutrients that you want to pull out of your elderberry when you pour it in the bucket. So we're over at the stove. I've heated up my water, and now I'm going to dissolve my sugar. So making a basic wine, you'll find that you'll use about 2 to 3 pounds of sugar per gallon of wine. And since I'm doing 5 gallons, I need between 10 and 15 pounds of sugar. Well, these are 4-pound bags, so of course 4 pounds, 3 bags, we're looking at 12 pounds of sugar, which does sound like an awful lot, but the yeast eats the sugar, and that's what makes the alcohol, and we're using the alcohol as a preservative. So I'm going to start off with 12 pounds that is a good round number between that 10 and 15. And then as this ferments over time, I might find that I need to add a little bit more sugar or let it ferment for longer to eat more of the sugar, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to cut open my bags and start dumping it in. And I'm using 2 pots just out of ease. You don't have to use 2 pots. You can dissolve. You should be able to dissolve 12 pounds of sugar in just 1 pot. I just didn't feel like going to get my canning pot. And that's what I would have to use if I needed a bigger pot. So I'm just making it easy on myself. I'm going to stir this quite a bit. And whenever you put sugar into a pot that has heat on the bottom, you do want to make sure that you keep it stirred because you don't want to scorch the sugar. Because then that gives it a nasty little scorch taste throughout whatever you're making. I learned that the hard way when making candy long ago. And if you haven't smelled something bad, scorched sugar smells bad. All right, so that is dissolving nicely. One more bag, and that'll give us our 12. And mind you, that's 12 pounds, not 12 cups. Gave my sugar water a little bit of a stir. And this water is still hot. And you want it hot because you want it to start assimilating all of the stuff in there into one. That is a wonderful looking color. So you might have noticed that I haven't added my yeast. And you definitely don't want to add the yeast when the water is hot. But you want the hot water because you want the ingredients to assimilate. So I'm going to allow that to cool. And then I will activate my yeast in some warm water and then pour it in there. All right, I guess Jade wants to learn how to do this. That's her favorite spot. Anyway. My batch of wine has cooled down, so now I'm going to activate the yeast to put into my wine. So I have some lukewarm tap water. You don't want your water hot because it will kill your yeast, and cold water will not activate the yeast. And if you live in the city or a municipality that uses chlorinated water, you're going to want to use filtered water. The chlorine affects your yeast. So you basically, you open up your package, pour it into some lukewarm water, just like that. And then you stir it up, and then you allow it to sit to start bubbling. And the bubbling will show you that it's activated. If it doesn't bubble, then the water is not the right temperature, or your yeast is old enough that your package is no good. Take the confusion and overwhelm out of your life and design your natural health lifestyle. Start it today at beccasplanet.com.